The Arizona Cardinals are next. I think my biggest concern is just how do you have Kyler Murray as your quarterback? You got Nuck, you got all these guys, right? Maybe not the best offensive personnel, but you have the special quarterback, you have the special receiver, and yet your offense is just not very good. That's kind of been my issue. And it's not like Cliff hasn't done a great job getting these quarterbacks because he's had Mahomes, he's had Kyler. It seems like he really knows what to do at the quarterback position, but his offenses are always stagnant. And that's just the part that's tough. At least in the NFL, with the Cardinals, his offenses have been pretty stagnant. So I think that's my biggest concern for them. Can Cliff make that big step? Because from an evaluation standpoint, I think he's done a pretty good job, but the offense just hasn't produced, and you're going to have to produce at one point. So I think for him, I think that's my biggest concern with the Cardinals is just can Cliff produce? So, Aiden, is that something that you're kind of questioning too, or like is that something that you're wondering about?
100%. Cliff is a guy who's had Mahomes, Baker, now Kyler, and has never finished above 500. He's a guy who I need to see succeed over the course of a season. I've never seen it. The Cardinals have the personnel to do it. Would look awesome if we were 8 years in the past with Watt, Green, Fitz. But Kyler is so good. I think as Russ, fingers crossed, starts to taper off, I think Kyler's going to only get better. And he's going to kind of take the role of that guy in the NFC West that's stuck with a coach who is pretty much just holding him back. I think the Cardinals need to move off from Cliff, and I think that if they don't make the playoffs this year, that's what they're probably going to do. But again, they have the offensive personnel that I'm a little bit wary. They beat us in week 1 last year. They look good, but obviously they weren't able to sustain that and lost in week 17, if I'm not wrong, to us with a playoff spot on the line, which I think just sums up what Cliff is and the question marks that we have. But I think like the Seahawks, 10-11 win ceiling, but could be bad as well. I don't love their defensive backs. I think they have Buda Baker, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, their corners are kind of lacking. They got Byron Murphy, and Malcolm Butler, and then I think their first guy off the bench is going to be Robert Alford. So not the best tandem there.
Not awesome.
Good thing Buda's a stud safety.
He's a beast, but they need Simmons to take a big step. He was a letdown as a rookie.
Also, I'll just add with him, I don't know how much of that is on him. They're kind of it seemed like they were having him bounce all over the place.
For some of it, which was weird.
And towards the end of the year, he did get on the field a lot more. So like for his sake, hopefully that'll help him a lot.
And he's a crazy number too. What kind of guy wears 48? Come on.
It doesn't bode well for success.
No, definitely not. But yeah, I think that you summed it up. I think that they're limited by their head coach, which is unfortunate given the quarterback.
I do think it's that he could turn around. I think this is a very like a huge turning point for Cliff and just the Cardinals in general, because their offseason was sort of like, hey, we were all right. Like we were almost a playoff team, not quite there. We need to get a little bit better. So we're going to sign high upside, high risk guys. We're going to have these two big signings in JJ Watt and AJ Green. I definitely think there's a lot more upside with JJ Watt, especially playing across Chandler, or maybe inside, I guess, Chandler Jones. Probably inside and outside a little bit. But I think that you have a defensive line with JJ Watt and Chandler Jones. Just the name value jumps off the page. But those are two guys that are probably going to be – no, not probably. They are absolutely going to be Hall of Fame players. And Chandler Jones might be a guy that you might not expect that. Go look at his career numbers. He has over 100 sacks. Like he's definitely going to be a dude that's there. So those two guys, if they are healthy, their defense will get masked a lot. And you have guys like Buda Baker being a playmaker. If Isaiah Simmons can figure it out, hey, that's a very formidable defense in my opinion. But that's a big if. And then on offense, you have I think it's just the if with Cliff on offense. And Kyler's been great, but he hasn't been able to really win yet, and very young in his career. But I think he's a really, really good player. So if their offense can look better and they can stay healthy, I think they have a ton of upside. I think they could. I think they're good enough at their highest point to be the division winners, but I also think they could very easily be the team in last place. So I think it's just all over the place. Ton of upside, a lot of guys that could go down and have gone down in the past. So that's where I'm kind of at on them. But anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think that you hit it on the head. I think it's Cliff's make or break it year. I'd be surprised if he wasn't on the hot seat now, and if they miss the playoffs again and don't look great. Expect a new coach in Arizona next year. Probably put my name in the hat. The job can't be that hard. You got a lot of playmakers over there, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, so I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks everyone for listening. If this is your first time checking us out, make sure to subscribe. We're going to be getting 49ers content out all off season, even when things are slow like this to figure out some sort of topics. But I think this was a really fun episode to kind of look at these teams in the NFC, because it's definitely not as top heavy as it was a couple of years ago, but you still got a lot of good teams. And there's definitely going to be some surprises in the season. So fully expect that to happen. This is your first time checking us out. I mentioned last time we're part of Undrafted Sports Network, and we are currently looking for sports writers. If you have any interest in that, I'll add the email below, but make sure to email us at there. And I think that's going to do it for today's episode. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.